My cruel in-laws forced me to cook, clean and serve them, even though I was a billionaire. They didn't know I was rich, and they only realized it when I left. They regretted it so much, but it was too late. Welcome to my channel. Today I will share with you the story of a woman who showed her in-laws how wrong they were for assuming things about her. So let's jump into the story. Lilian was a beautiful young woman who had just gotten married to the love of her life, Tom. She was lucky to have found him because he was a successful businessman, and together they had a wonderful life. However, there was one thing that made Lilian sad: her in-laws. They were a poor family who lived in a small house and barely had enough money to put food on the table. When Lilian and Tom got married, Tom's parents begged her to let them move in with them so that they could help take care of their son. Although she loved Tom very much, she didn't love his parents. She knew that they only wanted to live with them so that they could leech onto their money, but she didn't want to disappoint her husband. So she agreed to let them move in. She welcomed them into her luxurious home. But she didn't realize that she was making a big mistake. Tom's mother was a selfish and greedy woman who had always been jealous of her daughter-in-law's beauty and intelligence. Tom's father was a lazy man who never worked hard enough to make enough money to support his family. Now that they were living with Lilian, they thought that they were entitled to all of her money, and they started treating her like a servant. They told her to cook meals for them, clean the house, and take care of Tom, even though she was a successful businesswoman who didn't have to work for anyone. Lilian was furious, but she tried to ignore it. She thought that if she just gave them everything they wanted, then they would eventually get bored and go back to their own home. But she was wrong. The more she gave, the more they took. Soon she couldn't take it anymore, and she started standing up for herself. She told them that she wasn't going to do their laundry or cook their food, but they didn't listen. They continued to tell her what to do, and when she didn't do it, they punished her by making her sleep outside on the couch. Lilian was heartbroken. She didn't know what to do. She loved her husband and wanted to make him happy, but his parents were making her life miserable. One day, Lilian was so frustrated that she decided to run away from home. She packed a suitcase with her things and left without telling anyone where she was going. She didn't know where she would go or what she would do, but she knew that she couldn't stay with her in-laws any longer. As soon as she left, her in-laws were furious. They started yelling at Tom, demanding to know where she had gone. Tom was shocked. He didn't know where his wife was, but he knew that his parents were to blame. They had treated her so badly that she had probably run away. Tom confronted his parents and told them that they had gone too far this time. They had pushed his wife away, and he wasn't going to let them hurt her. Tom went out looking for his wife and eventually found her in a hotel room. He apologized to her for his parents' behavior and told her that he would never let them treat her badly again. Lilian forgave him, and they decided to move into their own home together. Tom's parents were furious when they heard that their son had found his wife and moved out. They had hoped that they would be able to leech onto their money for a few more years, but now they were out of luck. Lilian and Tom were finally happy. They could finally live their own lives without having to worry about Tom's parents. However, Lilian still had a score to settle with her in-laws. She wanted them to know how wrong they had been for assuming things about her. She had never told them that she was rich, but she was about to change that. One day, Lilian decided to reveal her wealth to her in-laws. She threw a huge party and invited all of her friends and family. She dressed in her finest clothes and jewelry and arrived at the party in a limousine. Her in-laws were shocked. They couldn't believe that their daughter-in-law was actually a billionaire. They had been treating her like a servant, but she was actually their equal. Lilian made a grand entrance, and everyone at the party was stunned. She looked beautiful and powerful, and she knew exactly how to use it. She had planned this party not just to show off her wealth, but also to humiliate her in-laws. She made sure that they were the center of attention, and that everyone at the party knew how poorly they had treated her. After the party, Lilian confronted her in-laws. She told them that she had had enough of their behavior and that she was done being their servant. She told them that she was leaving and that she would never come back. Her in-laws were devastated. They had lost the only source of money that they had ever known, and they were terrified about what would happen next. Lilian packed her things and left without even saying goodbye. She didn't look back. She was done with her in-laws, and she didn't need them in her life anymore. As soon as she left, her in-laws were panicking. They didn't know what to do. They had no money, and they were terrified about how they were going to survive. They begged Tom for money, but he refused. He was furious with his parents for what they had done, and he wasn't going to help them. Tom's parents were left with no choice but to find their own way. They were too proud to ask for help and too stubborn to admit that they had made a mistake. They had assumed things about Lilian, and it had cost them everything. In the end, Lilian won. She had finally freed herself from her in-laws, and she was never going to look back. She had shown them how wrong they were for assuming things about her and for treating her like a servant. She had proven that she was their equal and that she didn't need them in her life. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of the story? How do you think Lilian handled the situation? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.